How the international monetary system has evolved, that is the main question, right? So what happened when people started doing the trade between the countries, and they used to exchange the goods, and in that exchange, uh, they have to exchange something, right? So what is that something? That is the currency of one country to another country. So that currency has to be monitored, or that currency has to be defined, or the rate of exchange has to be defined. That is the main question. So that whole system which is there, like whoever is the people who are involved into deciding the exchange rate, or deciding the currency, deciding what to be accepted uh, for that currency, or how we are going to exchange the currency, the goods and currencies into each other, and who will monitor all that. Okay, so that is what the whole monetary system is. Okay, so international monetary system is what? It is nothing but when we are transacting the goods, or when we're trading the goods, and in return we are transacting the money, and that money is the currency of the country, and that currency has to be monitored by somebody. That is nothing but the international monetary system. So everything comes under related to that, like whatever procedures are there, mechanisms, process, institution who regulates, every people who are involved into that, that becomes the international monetary system. Okay, so if you see the oldest system of exchange rate, everyone knows that the gold species standard, we say, in which actual currency contained a fixed content of gold. Okay, so what in India also, like what happens when we have a currency is what our transaction, what we do in a currency, right? So in India, what do we feel that okay, just it's a note, right? So what we can do, we can just exchange, or we can just print more notes and circulate it in the market, and we can boost our economy. Is it so? Is it the way that people do it? Can we do it? Can Indian people do it like that, that we just print more currency and circulate it into the market, and then we can boost our economy? Can we do that?
No, ma'am.
No. Why we can't do that? Or what is the procedure to do that? If you want to print more currency, what we can do? We have to do. So what we can do here is that we cannot, what we can say, we cannot print a currency on our own and we can just circulate into the market. There will be no value for that, right? So even if you do it, what will happen? So one thing which you can buy for 10,000 rupees, now you have to pay 20,000 rupees for that. So your money or your currency will have a deteriorating value because you have more of it. Then the purchasing power of currency will not increase because you're printing it more. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to actually generate the economy, or the value of the purchasing power of the currency. That is more important. If you see in UK or in European countries, the maximum note that they have is for $100. Are you getting it? Or 100 euro, right? So they don't have 2,000 rupees, $2,000 or 2,000 euro note. They don't need it because the purchasing power of their currency is already very good or very high. So they don't need more notes to be printed, or more number of, the number, they don't want more to be printed, right? Because the purchasing power is more valuable than the number that we are printing on the note, right? So even if you put 2,000 or 5,000, even 10,000 note, it doesn't make a sense if it doesn't have a purchasing power. So how it has been evolved, if you see, what happened in after World War II, what people used to do. So to boost their economy, to export more product from their country, and to stop the import from the other country. They didn't want that they should import. They wanted that people should buy our product. Okay, so that concept was called, it was beggar thy neighbors. Means what? Uh, you just give the neighbors the product with a very low value or very low cost. So what people started doing is to boost their economy, or to make their business grow, they devaluated their currency. Okay, and we also know that even in China they used to dump the product in Indian market with the low value, lowest value. So if it is cheap, the people will buy more, right? So that was the concept. So what they used to do, they devaluated their currency, and then they started selling the product with a very low value, and it actually hampered, and that increased, or that made or created the Great Depression that you have heard of, right? 1990s में आया था, 1919 में आया था. तो वो क्या था, ग्रेट डिप्रेशन था. वो ग्रेट डिप्रेशन पूरे वर्ल्ड में आया था. तो कैसे आया था? बिकॉज ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग, बिकॉज वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 हो चुका था. वर्ल्ड वॉर से तुम निकले थे, और तुमने अपनी करेंसी को ही डिवेल्युएट करना शुरू कर दिया था. तो फिर ऐसे में क्या हुआ कि एक ग्रेट हैमस्टर करके एक सिटी है, वहां पे कुछ लोगों ने, मतलब कुछ कंट्री के लोगों ने एक साथ आकर एक मीटिंग लिया, एक कॉन्फ्रेंस ली. एंड वहां पे उन्होंने सोचा कि कुछ करना चाहिए, अदरवाइज अपने करेंसी की वैल्यू नीचे जाती जाएगी, और ये डिप्रेशन जो है वो बढ़ता ही जाएगा, वैल्यू कम होती जाएगी, और कुछ कुछ ना कुछ अपने एक स्टैंडर्ड होना चाहिए, मतलब कंट्रीज के बीच में, या कुछ we should have something which will keep the value of currency intact, right? So उन्होंने फिर सोचा, और तभी then they started actually for international monetary system, right? So then actually came the gold bullion standard. If you see, so what they have decided that ki, the gold, which is actually precious thing, and everybody accepts that. Actually, all the country people, they accept the gold. So what they wanted that we will keep the reserve or the currency in exchange of gold. So what they started keeping the gold in the reserve, or if you give a gold, and they will print the currency in that amount of gold, or whatever purchasing power of that gold will be. Okay, so if you give more gold, your notes will be more, or your circulation will be more, right? So still now, I mean, in India also we have to keep the gold as a reserve. So we cannot have anyone cannot come and print the currency and then circulate. And even if they do it, it doesn't help anyone at all, because you don't have that much of gold as much as gold the other country have, right? So how your worth is defined, how your worth was defined, that how much gold you have in a reserve. Are you getting it? That is why gold is very precious. It has a value, and every time when you see any changes in the share market, the gold value increases. That is why it is very precious for everybody in the world, because everybody accept that thing as a reserve. Okay, so then they started such things. They started, and they decided that okay, we will all follow this thing, because our currencies are all deteriorating, the values are deteriorating. We should not do that. We should accept one thing, and everyone will follow that thing, right? So that is when the monetary system actually had started, and people started using this, and then the currency game has started, and then exchange rates and everything has been started because of this particular thing. Okay, so the Bretton Woods era, if you see, that is called, that meeting, that conference was there, and then it has started the Bretton Woods era in 1946 to 1971. It was there. So what was that? So they have decided, actually it was in, the city was in US, so they have decided a US dollar conversion rate mostly. So US dollar conversion rate was fixed by the USA as $1 is equal to 35 ounce of gold. Now, if you consider 1 ounce of gold is approximately 28.30. They say that if you want to convert 1 ounce, you just multiply it by 28.30 some value. So 34 or 30 for a round figure you consider. So that much amount of gold was actually $1 conversion rate was fixed by the US, if you see. So that much grams of gold you had to keep. Okay. So that was decided, and other members all, they agreed to fix the parities of their currency. Now, what is the parity? Anyone? Anyone? You must have heard about this word, right? Are you listening or not? I mean, I'm doubtful now.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. What it can be? What it can be? We are just going to discuss. I'm not like asking question or answering, or you want me. I want you to answer. But what is it in general? Sarina, what is parity? You are a BCom student. Are you there?
यस मैम, आपकी आवाज थोड़ी कम आ रही है।
कम आ रही है, एक मिनट मैं ये करती हूँ। अभी आ रही है?
हाँ
Yes,
मैम,
ma'am.
अभी आ रही, क्लियर आ रही है।
तो क्या हो सकता है, मतलब क्या हो सकता है पैरिटी, क्या होना चाहिए?
Parity means equality in pay.
Equality in pay, right? So if you, in other word, if you say that ki, what is the exchange rate or currency rate, that how do we define? So parity means that your, how much your rupees and how much is my dollar, both should have a same purchasing power for a particular product. For example, you want to buy 1 gram of gold, right? Or or 10 gram of gold. So how much your rupees will be needed and how much the dollar will be needed. So both amount or quantity, that is will be equivalent at a particular, you can say, level where you can buy a same thing, okay, with that amount of money. So parity is what? It is like a purchasing power which is equal to both the currencies. So other members agreed to fix the parity. Means what? To fix the parity means what? They wanted to fix the currency. Okay, dollar. So how many rupees will be there for $1? How much money we have to pay for $1? So that was fixed at that time, and then they used to then trade it in a way, right? So that is why dollar has become a very powerful, we can say, currency in the world, because everything is traded in the dollar. Okay, so that is why it is very much important. So other members agreed to fix the parities of their currencies vis-a-vis dollar with respect to permissible central parity with 1%. 1% means what? Plus minus can be accepted with 1% fluctuation on the either side. In case of crossing the limit, the authorities will free. Crossing the limit means what? If you want, if you are going again into that era of, devaluating your currency, and then you are just selling the product of your country, and you are taking the attention of all the other countries, and then what will happen? One person will have a more value for the currency, and then they will buy your product, and then you will dominate the market, right? So they don't want that thing to happen, right? So that is why the currency has to be decided, the parity has to be decided, and then they have to decide the rate of exchange with the, in with respect to the gold in the dollar, right? So that was decided by these people, and that was called as the Bretton Woods era in 1946 to 1971. And if something happens, then authorities will come, and then they will bring back the exchange rate within the limit. So that was the thing. So rules for mint parity was the concept that they were using. So rules were, the authorities must fix some once for all conversion rate of paper money issued by them into the gold. Okay. So सबसे पहला rule था कि authorities must fix some once for all conversion rate for paper money to issue by them into the gold. Okay. So इतना gold होगा तो इतनी currency आपकी रहेगी, वो आपको एक fix करना है. सेकंड, देयर मस्ट बी फ्री फ्लो ऑफ गोल्ड, मतलब एक दूसरे को गोल्ड एक्सचेंज आप आराम से कर पाओ, नहीं तो तुम अपना गोल्ड मतलब एक अपने पास रखोगे, वो दूसरे को फिर मनी प्रिंट होने का चांस नहीं मिलेगा, क्योंकि हर जगह गोल्ड नहीं पाया जाता, राइट? सो गोल्ड वाज द मेन थिंग व्हिच वी कैन ट्रेड easily or freely to anywhere, any place. That was the thing. Number 3, the money supply should be tied with the amount of gold reserve kept by the authority. Okay, so मनी सप्लाई जो होता है वो गोल्ड के रिजर्व्स के अकॉर्डिंगली ही होगा या उसी के प्रोपोर्शन में होगा, उससे ना कोई ज्यादा देगा ना प्रिंट करेगा, ना ही उसको अलाउ करेंगे या ना ही उसको कोई भी अथॉरिटी रहेगी। ठीक है, सो दैट वाज द मेन rule for parity for having a currency exchange within the countries. Okay, so if you see these are the participants of the global financial system, you just have a look onto this, who were the people or who are actually nowadays the people who are global financial systems participants. So if you see this is divided into three parts. Number one is private sector, number two is official sector, number three is infrastructure. Okay. Now, if you see infrastructure, what will be there in the infrastructure? They have a micro prudential supervision and macro prudential supervision. That is what the supervision means. What they will check out for the economic factors which are there in the country. Micro is for a particular company. Okay, so if you have a small company, the micro prudential supervision will be there for your company only. Or you, for example, if you consider bank, so it will be there for the bank only. Okay, and macro is for like country. Whatever economic factors will be there, whatever economic this balance will be there, or whatever it is, so that will be decided or that will be given or taken care by this macro prudential supervision. Then regulation there, how we are going to work, how we are going to make the economy boost or whatever changes will be there, so regulation is there. Then payment, clearing, settlement, custodian system, these are the infrastructure of the global financial system. These are the things which, by which or through which we are going to follow the rule, we are going to make the changes, we are going to transact the money, we are going to do the business. All these things will be just an infrastructure that is provided by all, everywhere in the world. Okay. Second is official sector. Official is like from the government point of view. If you say central bank, like our Reserve Bank of India is there in India. So this central bank is the official, like they have authority for doing the changes in everything that we all know. Then international financial institutions are there, World Bank is there, or International Monetary System is there, or fund, or international credit rating agencies are there. These are all already they have defined, they have accepted by the world, they are accepted by all the other countries, and these are the institutions which are already there, which is official authorities. On sovereign wealth fund, if you see, sovereign wealth fund is the funds which is from the government fund we can say. So if the economy is boosting for India, how is it helping me, right? So if you invest into such kind of funds which are there, so they give you a value, they give you a profit of whatever they're earning into the economy. So if the economy is boosting and they're earning good money, they will also give you a profit out of that to a particular person who is using having the sovereign wealth fund. So it is related to government's growth into various sectors, right? So these are like official sector of global financial system. Then there is a private sector. Private sector is what we all know, that the stock market, the currency exchange market, commodities market, these are all the private sector markets, and which is widely accepted worldwide, right? So private sector is instruments. Instrument means what? Through which you are exchanging the money, right? Or through which you are investing the money. Like insurance is one instrument, stock is one instrument, or if you say fixed deposit, that is one instrument, right? So these are all the instruments are there in the global financial system. Then derivatives, we all know what is derivative. Last time also we have seen it. Different markets which are there in the various countries, operators, and bank and other intermediaries who help you to exchange or you help you to invest your money into this kind of private sector. Okay, so these are all the things which are there, participants of global financial system. Have a look once, and if you have any doubt, you ask me. I will give you 2 minutes. Okay, we'll go. Any doubt till now?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay. There is one PPT which I want to just share. So when we are thinking about, how the international market or how the countries got involved into international market or ग्लोबल फाइनेंशियल मार्केट्स के अंदर अपनी कंट्री ने क्या मतलब एमएनसीज कैसे आई जो अपने को सबको पता है कि how they have come into the picture when we want to grow our business then you are going to increase your branch into other country and then the company becomes the multinational company, right? So first point, if you see that first of all it was initiated by government in major countries in 1980s. if you see 1980s में क्या हुआ कि बहुत सारी कंट्रीज जो थी डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज वगैरह थी उन्होंने लोगों को आने दिया हम अपनी अपनी कंट्री में और जो डेवलप्ड कंट्री थी वहां से कंपनी दूसरे डेवलपिंग कंट्री में बिजनेस लगाने मतलब बिजनेस करने के लिए जाने लगी. सो ये दूसरों को जाने देना पहली बात और किसी को आने देना अपने कंट्री में, दैट has started the globalization, right? So they started accepting that you can come into our country and you can also invest the money into our markets. और आपने देखा होगा कि आप हमारी कंट्री के शेयर मार्केट में भी आ सकते हो, आप हमारी कंट्री में आपके कंपनी के शेयर्स वगैरह तुम स्टॉक आप बेच सकते हो. So this was called as like then started the globalized financial market. Okay. So if you see second point, if you see in October 27, 1986 लंदन जो था, लंदन का जो स्टॉक एक्सचेंज था उन्होंने लोगों को मतलब ओपन कर दिया क्योंकि यू कैन कम एंड दे हैव एलिमिनेटेड द फिक्स ब्रोकरेज कमीशन. और उसके थ्रू क्या हुआ कि बाकी सारे जो लोग थे बाकी कंट्री के जो लोग कंपनीज थी वो बाहर वो जाना चाहती थी लंदन स्टॉक एक्सचेंज में, तो वहां पे उन्होंने अपना एक्सचेंज जो है अपना स्टॉक का एक्सचेंज है स्टॉक सेल करना है वहां पे उन्होंने शुरू किया. सो इट स्टार्टेड इन 1986. Then if you see after that, developing countries such as Chile, Mexico and Korea, they began to liberalize by allowing foreigners to invest. तो गवर्नमेंट का रोल यहाँ पे बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है. व्हेन दे allow the foreign direct investment into our country, then your globalization or globalized financial market and MNCs starts. If they don't allow, we can't go. They don't allow to go, we can't go. They don't allow to come to the country, we can't go in that country, right? So it is up to the whole and soul the business and their country's government's role which is there into the global financial market or global MNCs or whatever it will be. So in India also they have started FDI, so then we could start our own business into other countries, right? So what they have started innovative instrument. अभी कैसे उन्होंने फिर ग्लोबलाइज फाइनेंशियल मार्केट बनाना शुरू किया, बिकॉज अभी तक हमने क्या देखा था कि ग्लोबल ट्रेड देखा था कि भाई मैं तुमको कुछ प्रोडक्ट दूंगा या एक्सचेंज करूंगा, यू आर गिविंग मी द मनी, वी आर गोइंग टू गिव यू द गोल्ड, यू गिव मी द प्रिंट ऑफ द करेंसी and I give you my currency, you give me your dollar. So what they have started, first of all they used to do just trading, okay, but after that when they started doing the financial related market related things, what they have started, so instruments consequence innovative instrument. So what they used to do, currency futures and options. Last semester we have seen some basic things about currency future, and this semester this subject we will also see currency futures and options. So currency, how you are trading the you are exchanging the currency, you are exchanging the currency on the stock market. So that is currency futures and options. Then multi-currency bonds. You must have seen that you can buy a bonds of US, right? You can invest your money into US bond or Euro bond. हमने देखा था last time Japanese bonds में भी हमने देखा था कि we can trade our bonds. So these are the bonds which is given by the government of that country actually. So that multi-currency bonds are there, which are there on the share market. Then international mutual fund. Now international mutual funds are there. Then कंट्री के खुद के फंड्स जो है उसमें आप पैसे डाल सकते हो, उस कंट्री के कंपनी में डाल सकते हो, और स्टॉक इंडेक्स फ्यूचर्स एंड ऑप्शंस में आप पैसे डाल सकते हो। तो ये मार्केट जो है वो उन्होंने बाद में बनाया। दिस वाज द मार्केट व्हिच वाज इवॉल्व्ड out of this globalized financial system. Okay, so this is what I wanted to say, that first of all we started with the trade of the product, and then we started with the gold and currency, and now we have come up to the financial instruments that we are actually trading onto the financial markets. So these are all, this is very complex structure. We have to understand each and everything about the business outside of the country. Okay, so it is a bit, we will go slowly, we will understand each and every small thing about international financial management. Okay, so what we have seen till now, international monetary system is there, which came to the existence in the USA, and then people came together and they decided something, that we have to do something about it, and then they started doing the standardization about the currencies and everything. So then Bretton Woods era came, where they started using the gold and US dollar, and then decided the rate of the currency, and every currency is traded in the US dollar. They decided with the parity rules, and these are the participants of global financial system today. Okay, today, because some years back it was not that much, but now everyone is a part of that. Okay, so distinguishing features of international finance, if you see, so number one is, I mean, what it, how it is differentiated from our local market to the international, or what we can say, normal finance. We are learning normal finance related to our country, okay, or our own business in our own country. So that is different. If you have heard about accounting standard, अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड, तो हम कौन सा अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड यूज करते हैं? हम इंडियन वाला करते हैं, जैसे कि गैप है, जनरली एक्सेप्टेड अकाउंटिंग प्रिंसिपल है। अपने इंडिया का अपना अलग अकाउंटिंग का एक मेथड होता है, वही हम यूज करते हैं, वही हम पढ़ते हैं बीकॉम में, एमबीए में, कहीं पे। लेकिन फॉरेन कंट्रीज में ऐसा होता है कि उनके अलग अलग अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स है, तो वो आपको पढ़ना है। जैसे लास्ट ईयर हमने देखा था कि if you want to put your country on US stock exchange, you have to make the financial statement according to their अकाउंटिंग प्रिंसिपल, है ना। हमने पढ़ा था कि तुम उसके अकाउंटिंग प्रिंसिपल में तुम्हारे कंपनी का प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस स्टेटमेंट और बैलेंस शीट बनाओगे, फिर वो तुम वो कंट्री के स्टॉक एक्सचेंज में डालोगे, तब लोग वो पढ़ेंगे, और वहां से फिर तुम्हारे कंपनी का स्टॉक एक्सचेंज जो है वो शेयर होगा। तो तुम्हारी खुद की, आई मीन योर ओन कंपनीज फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग जो है, दैट रिपोर्टिंग वी डू इन इंडिया लाइक GAAP, गैप। But when you go to the outside country, they have their own different or internationally accepted. Now, what is the internationally accepted accounting standard? So you must have heard about IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standard. So IFRS जो होता है वो कि इंटरनेशनली सब लोग एक्सेप्ट करते हैं वो रिपोर्टिंग, जो आपने अपनी कंपनी के अंदर प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस और बैलेंस शीट आपने बनाया है, और वी आर गोइंग टू शेयर दैट to the world. Okay, so that is what very important. So first of all, distinguishing feature is what your company's accounting and the world's accounting is different, so you have to make it available into the world's accounting standard or accounting practice, or you have to make it according to them. So important distinguishing feature is number one, what is the difference when you are doing a business in India or in our country and when you are doing a business in outside of the country. So number one is फॉरेन एक्सचेंज का जो रिस्क होता है वो बहुत ही बड़ा होता है। कभी कभी आपका ट्रांजैक्शन जो है वट एवर आप कर रहे हो वो पैसों के मामले में या रिस्क करेंसी में जा रहा है, एंड इफ द फॉरेन एक्सचेंज इज डाउन और increase, then your business is going to get hampered, right? So it is the first risk which is there. Then political risk, if the political conditions of the country is not good for some people, so it is going to hamper. Like for example, now if you say, or you just tell me who is having a political risk related problem, which country is having a political risk related problem now, अभी कौन से कंट्री में ऐसे चल रहा है, आपको क्या लगता है?
Ma'am, China.
And which country?
China and USA.
And sorry, और कौन सी कंट्रीज है?
रशिया एंड फ्रांस।
उनके बीच में कौन सा प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है? Even China and India, do they have a political relations now? Good.
Yes, ma'am.
They
Yes, yes. India also.
are not having a good political relations right away.
Good.
And,
Yes, ma'am.
Japan and China, they are not having a political good relation. Japan has already withdrawn so many companies from China, right? Yeah. Another country
Yes,
who had
ma'am.
a dispute with China.
America and China.
Yeah, America and China and other countries which is nearby. Hong Kong and China. Right? Their political conditions are not good right away. Even China and Australia is also having a political dispute right now, if you see. So these are all the problems which are there that China is facing because of the coronavirus. Okay, if you see some countries which were there beforehand, the political risk which was there for the countries. For example, if you have heard about Syria, have you heard about Syria?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Syria country.
Yes.
The civil war is there for like 10 years. Right? And because of that, there was a political risk to deal with that country. Yeah. And country went into a very great recession into, or the economy of the country is totally down now, right? Because of all the political problems which are already there in that country. So what is happening? The business automatically goes down if there is a political risk. So those people who are having a very good business in China, those people who are having a very good business in, for example, if you have heard about Pakistan and Arab country, okay, like Dubai or UAE, if you say. So they used to give Pakistan the petroleum on credit basis. Okay, but because of the political conditions, or even not even political condition, because of the conditions, economical condition of the overall world, they have stopped giving them the credit now. They said that they had a pact of giving a credit for, like, for example, till 2022. But now they are not. They are saying that even if the pact is there, because of the problem of the economy, we will not provide you that. And because they are not going to provide it to the Pakistan, so it is going to hamper all the other people or other businesses which are there. Okay, so when you are doing a business internationally, or your business is dependent on to some other country, so their political environment is all the time going to hamper your uh, business. Okay, so that is what very important when you're doing a business. That is why people want to invest into countries which are politically stable. Okay, so you know that when it is the time of election, all the time the market is very volatile, made with the state-wise election or made with the country-wise, right? Because they know that if the government changes, whole political equation will change and the business will also change. Okay, so that is how all people are looking at the political conditions of the countries. Number 3 is expanded opportunity sets. I mean, what are the economic, what we can say, purchasing power of the people who are there. So what are the lifestyle of the people over there, how they are earning or how they are spending, or whatever the spending habits are there. So what are the opportunity for me in the country? For example, why people are more interested in India? They want to invest in India, even if India is developing country, right? Where we don't have money or we don't even have more money. But what is the people see in our country is that they see the population of our country. Even if you want to sell a toothpaste in our country, the population is so much and consumers are so much in our country that your toothpaste will always make a profit or your product will always make a profit because the consumer are more, right? So what are the opportunities in India? That is what they are looking at. So they know that the opportunity is that the customer is more, the people are more, the population is more. Obviously they will need the things, right? So that is what the people see into the other country, or what do they see in the other country. Okay. Then market imperfections, that is a risk. Most of the time that is a risk, that the market imperfections are there, or volatility in the market is there, even if you consider the share market. So that is a risk for, or factor which is change, because in general business or in country business, you know what is happening. But when you are investing into some other country, you don't know much about their behavior or the people's behavior, how they are going to affect the market. So they don't know what is the market there. Okay, who are the market? Market means people are the market, who is the part of it. Okay, so that is why it is very important, or that is a distinguishing factor from doing the business in local and doing the business outside of the country. So if you see the methods by which the firms conduct international business activities, तो आपको फॉरेन में अगर बिजनेस डालना है, ये मैं जनरल आइडिया दे रही हूँ, हम ये बाद में डिटेल में भी पढ़ेंगे थ्रू सम केस स्टडीज. ओके, so generally what do we need? We all need first of all license to do the business. Then you need franchising और जॉइंट वेंचर आप कर सकते हैं किसी के साथ. आपने अब अपने इंडिया में देखा होगा बहुत सारी कंपनीज ऐसी करती है कि फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल दे कम एंड दे मर्ज विद और जॉइंट वेंचर दे स्टार्ट, है ना. जैसे आपने सुना होगा इलेक्ट्रोलक्स कैलविनेटर, है ना. दो कंपनी एक साथ आई थी, और क्या करते हैं, बाहर की कंट्री की कंपनी अपने कंट्री में आती है, वो दे जॉइंट वेंचर, एंड देन आफ्टर सम इयर्स व्हेन दे आर सेटल डाउन एंड दे सेपरेट. दैट इज द स्ट्रैटेजी दे यूज. फॉर एग्जाम्पल हीरो होंडा आपने सुना होगा, अब दोनों अलग हो चुकी है, राइट. दिस इज व्हाट द स्ट्रैटेजी. व्हाट डू? दे कम इनटू द कंट्री, दे जॉइंट वेंचर and they do the business like that for some years, and then they separate and they have their own brands. Okay, and both of the brands are doing well, or the known brands are there. Then management contracts are there. किसी कंपनी का दूसरी कंपनी के साथ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होता है, या वो कंपनी आती है इंडिया में, या पहले किसी और कंपनी के अंडर आती है, देन अपना निकालती है बाहर से, एस्टेब्लिशिंग न्यू फॉरेन सब्सिडरी, या फिर अपना ये पूरा का पूरा ब्रांच ही तुम अपनी दूसरी कंट्री में डाल दो, राइट. सो दीज आर द वेज or methods by which the firm conduct the international business activities, and that is when we call the company has become the multinational company. When your company's branch is there in the other country, then your company automatically becomes the multinational corporation. Are you getting it? So when the company becomes multinational corporation, then comes the international business or international finance. जब तुम्हारी कंपनी इंडिया में ही काम कर रही है, तो तुमको इंटरनेशनल फाइनेंस का वहां पे कुछ भी काम नहीं रहेगा. लेकिन जब तुम एमएनसी में चले जाते हो काम करने के लिए, और एमएनसी के फाइनेंस डिपार्टमेंट में या फाइनेंस डोमेन में आप काम करते हो, वहां पे आपको इंटरनेशनल फाइनेंस के रूल्स रेगुलेशन और वहां पे इंटरनेशनल फाइनेंस का नॉलेज होना जरूरी होता है. आर यू गेटिंग? सो दिस इज व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, और दिस इज व्हाट हैपेंस व्हेन यू गो और वर्क इन द एमएनसी. Then some of the challenges which are there, I mean, these are very common and everybody knows what are the emerging challenges of international finance nowadays. Number one, diverse economic environment. Number two, risk management related challenges. Now, how we are going to manage the risk if suddenly a blast is happening in one country, right? If you know the blast of Beirut. So that country is like, many people don't have actually much of a business. But suppose, for example, in India or in Mumbai, where or in Pune, Chakan place is there, okay, and a big blast is happening in that place, right? So what happens? Everything is devastated, and